Welcome to Calming the Chaos podcast, where we help you find peace in a chaotic world. I'm your host, Tracy, licensed mental health counselor. Calming the Chaos provides self-help resources for people in crisis. It's not a substitute for counseling or psychotherapy. Thanks for tuning in. And now, let the chaos begin. Calming the Chaos podcast was developed back in 2019 for purposes of helping people who struggled with anxiety, depression, overwhelm, panic, anger, and all kinds of emotions that disrupted life and caused chaos. And so what we have today, fast forwarding to 2024, is the end of season 5. And this last episode features Helen Sernett, and she is a self-proclaimed sleep evangelist. And Helen is going to help us to understand how to get better sleep, how to reduce our chaos, and how to increase our energy and peace in life. And it's so timely that Helen is here with us today because I am also going to be giving my podcast a nap because, as you know, at the end of every season, I stop doing interviews and I just do whatever the heck I want through the summer and into September. And I'm going to certainly do that. However, in September, I am going to probably do podcast interviews a little bit differently, if at all. So stay tuned and see what we have for you in season 6 of Calming the Chaos podcast. So I would really like to take this time and thank all of my subscribers. I never dreamed that I would have almost 500 of them, and this is just on YouTube. There are people who follow me on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, and also Amazon, Spotify, all that stuff. I really appreciate having you stick with me since 2019, and those who have jumped on board after that. I really appreciate all of you from the bottom of my heart. And so now let's listen to Helen Sernett as she tells us how to get better sleep. And I talk about how I'm going to put this podcast down for a nap. All right. Take care and enjoy the episode. I'm putting on my onesie. This is my sleep onesie, everybody. And I've never worn the sleep onesie before and on the podcast, but here it is. I am in my sleep onesie, and I've got my my beautiful bathrobe behind me as well. Might as well just go out because this is my last episode of this form. So here's my robe. I'm all set for sleep, and I'm gonna have Helen come up and hang out with us for a little while and tell us what her good stuff is. And we're going to wrap up Calming the Chaos. I mean, as it has been for the last couple of years, a little bit emotional, but I really like the idea of moving on to something else. Okay. All right, Helen, come up and calm my chaos. Here's Helen.
Hello, everyone. Okay, I think I'm live and ready to go, right? All right, yay. Hi, everybody. I am Helen Sernett. I am so grateful to be here at this moment of transition. A big part of my story has been transitioning from one part of my life to this new career and work that I'm doing as a sleep evangelist. So I'm here to support you as you transition your podcast. And I want to share that I am also the host of a podcast called Sleep Lists, where I provide listeners with curated single category lists that I recite in a lulling, calming voice to help people fall asleep. During waking hours, I'm available to speak at folks' events and talk about the importance and power of sleep in improving our lives in a myriad of ways. But sleep lists are there to help everyone go to sleep at night.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got to be doing this sleep stuff.
Yeah, Tracy. I I didn't sleep for a long time very well at all. And I lived in a state of mind and in a cultural mindset where I was kind of okay with the idea of like, you'll sleep when you're dead. Sleep is this thing that interrupts my life. It's not really part of my life, it interrupts my life. And I also resonated with the idea that um I had to be worthy of sleep, that I had to have done something great with my day in order to deserve the benefits of sleep. All of which were really toxic and terrible mindsets to a healthy lifestyle, and all of which helped me fall down a crazy wild rabbit hole of burnout, which led to depression and anxiety and a need to really be reborn out of all of that into a better sense of balance and self and wellness. And so my story is one where I left a career in fundraising, nonprofit fundraising, and I've started this work in sleep and sleep evangelizing. So I really just am on a big kick and a tour to help people learn about the value and importance of sleep and to integrate sleep into their health and wellness along with nutrition and exercise, which I think we hear a lot about.
Yeah, how important is sleep to the brain if you know? Because I understand it that if you do not get enough sleep, you may have like cortisol increases, you may have more anxiety, you may have more problems making decisions or thinking, doing day-to-day activities if you don't get enough sleep. And I think that maybe through your journey, you've, figured that out, right? Like, it's really important to get sleep.
Yes. Yes, it is super important to get sleep, and we could get scientific about it, and I will a little bit, but I'm not gonna go into all of the various chemicals and hormones that are balanced during our sleep. You are absolutely correct. Not sleeping messes with the levels in your brain, and it does so for a variety of different reasons. One is that your cells, all of them throughout your body, when they're doing their thing, they're creating waste. Most of the time, that's just going into the blood, and so your body is pretty much taking care of waste from the neck down all the time, but the blood-brain barrier makes it a little bit harder for that to function except at sleep time. So, unless you're sleeping, your brain's not getting its custodial care, like its actual
Mm.
janitorial duties taken care of. Um, and if it's not doing that, it becomes slower and, has less capacity. So,
Makes sense,
that's super
right?
important.
And it's
Yeah,
very simple to understand without getting into the physiology and the
right.
synapses and synapses
Your
and neurons and
synapses and
all that s
neurology,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I appreciate that you said that because I was like, I probably would have just kinda gone blank there, but I'm glad that you just go you keep it simple, don't you? You just
well,
say,
I try.
it is yeah, exactly. I appreciate that. Sleep is important. So, and we've
It's
established that you have struggled with sleep in the
yeah,
past. And you're in Seattle. You're actually about an hour north of where I am in Olympia, and so you're a local person. And we'll go
yeah,
into what you offer as far as services and everything. But I guess what I'd want to know is just how you know lack of sleep would affect the typical person.
yeah. So we've talked about the fact that, your brain doesn't have a chance to get cleaned up. If you're not sleeping enough and if you're tired, that has a similar effect in terms of your response times and reaction times as alcohol. So there are plenty of people who have advocated for laws that prohibit you from driving while tired. And we know that there are unionized drivers who have worked hard to limit the hours that they're allowed to work consecutively without rest, because that rest is so critical to their well-being, their actual safety on the job. The regular person who isn't driving for a living, but is driving to get to their living or to pick up the kids from school or whatever else they're doing on the roads, this is just one area where you can find yourself increasing your levels of, um, my brain wants to say unsafety, insecurity.
Mm,
Like you're risking more, you're being a much riskier person if you are driving on the road well tired. And well, many of us would consider ourselves super responsible humans that would never, ever, ever get behind the wheel of a car while drunk or even after having one or two drinks. Plenty of us get
mm.
behind the wheel of a car when we haven't slept well
Oh
or
my
when we
gosh.
realize it's day 4 of not sleeping well.
And it's such a painful experience too, and I've had it many times where I've been tired and I'm on the road, and then I'm like, "Okay, I gotta blast a bunch of cold air at myself. I gotta roll
Yeah.
down my window. I gotta turn up the music real loud. I gotta sing." And at one point in time, there was a time where I was driving back from, hypnotherapy training or something in Enumclaw, and, I had to stop and get a hotel room,
Mhm.
because I didn't feel responsible on the road. So yeah, I totally understand that. I think when we talk like, we got the head bob going on, and oh my gosh, that is such a scary, scary feeling.
And it's
So
relatable. We have all had it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'd like to start there when we talk about how sleep or the lack of it impacts our lives, because whether we want to admit it or not, we've probably all nodded, like had that head bob at the wheel, or worse, been in the car when our parents or loved ones have done that and you're like, "Whoa, I don't feel safe in here anymore." Um that is just one very clear way of understanding that you're not at your best when you don't have the sleep that you need.
Mm,
Um, Another thing that is really important, especially for people who are struggling with depression and anxiety, as I did when I was dealing with my burnout in particular, and as I still do sometimes, is that our sleep gives us a better balance. Still might need medication, but it absolutely gives us a better balance of chemicals to be more positive and to get over obstacles. Some of us have a running voice in our heads that's not necessarily kind to us. And it's been there for a really long time. And on good days, we can shove it aside. Those are the days where we've had enough sleep. On bad days, it runs over us. And oftentimes, those are days where we haven't had enough sleep, or at least that's one of the factors.
mm,
So, if you know you've got voices in your brain that are doing that counterproductive work, and you're trying to rewire your brain to have more productive thoughts, you're a lot better off if you get a good night's sleep, and you're a lot more likely to turn on those tools that you're trying to use more of and work at turning off those default negative settings.
mm. So that is a awesome explanation of the problem of not sleeping and the value of being able to have enough sleep and
Hmm.
quality sleep. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, what we want to transition to is how you developed a method to help people who are struggling with insomnia or sleeplessness. And, how did you develop this method? And what is the method and how did you
Yeah.
develop it?
That beautiful phrase that is necessity is the mother of invention. Absolutely is how I came upon being the creator and founder of sleep lists. I tried. white noise and green noise and brown noise and black noise. And I think there's a purple noise. Anyway, I've tried a lot of different colors of noises, pinks. None of them were my vibe. Not for anything, actually. I don't like them for studying. They don't appeal to my brain's structure,
Mhm.
and they don't help me get to sleep. Meditation, which I don't mind doing, and guided meditation in particular, I just didn't find it effective at actually getting me over that hump and into sleep. I wasn't able to work with a guided meditation into falling asleep. I'd get to the end and then I'd be like, but now I have to put myself to sleep. I don't know how to do that. I've lost
Mhm.
that skill, so I need to do that. Stories where people are like, "Oh, I'll tell you a boring story. Look, all these tangents and caveats." Well, that's just too darn interesting. I know you think it's boring, but I want to know what happens and where the characters go. What I felt I needed was somebody to count to me. As a kid, one of my tools going to sleep was to count to myself. I still use that well into my adulthood, and it wasn't working well for me anymore because I couldn't focus on the numbers. I had too many counterproductive, negative, spiraling, anxious thoughts going on in my brain popping up. And so I needed somebody else to do the counting so I could just focus on their voice. I thought, sure, this will be easy. Google somebody counting 1 to 500. Nothing. How to count in English 1 to 500. Not finding what I'm looking for. I got further and further down this research and figured out that I was going to have to make it for myself.
My goodness. How
Yes.
exciting though to have an idea and check to see if it's there, if it's not there, and find it's not there and have that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, as a business opportunity, I mean, it's how a lot of people design their business enterprise. Famously, it's how Spanx came to be.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well,
she wanted
yeah.
she wanted a thing, it wasn't there, so she made it.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, the that was the genesis, and so I sat
Mm.
down, in front of a very, like, cheap microphone that I got, like, off of a podcasting starter kit online and recorded the very first episode of Sleep Lists and, decided to make it something that was episodic. So I created other lists, and so now I have historical lists and imaginative lists and oh, I don't know. I have such a variety of lists and they're only continuing to grow. So, there's a lot of things that you can find on my website or in the podcast realm under sleep lists that gives
Right.
you different things to listen to. If, presidents is not your thing, then you can listen to
Periodic tables or
yes.
butterfly, species,
Yeah, I've got
whatever
all
it
the
is.
species of sheep, like, not all of them. There's actually quite a few breeds of sheep, but a lot of breeds
Yeah.
of sheep and a lot of breeds
Right.
of dogs,
Mhm.
varieties
And
of
you
grass.
and you speak these lists in a certain tone and a hertz. I think I don't know if there's music in the background. I think you said that there was, but there's
Yeah.
a certain timbre of your voice that you use that is completely thrilling to me because I'm completely into music, as you can probably tell here. uh, but just being able to speak and have that voice saying, like, they used to say count sheep. Well, it's in your own voice. And then you do have to pay attention to, oh, is that one? That's two, that's three. But if you have somebody speak a list of anything, like the periodic tables, like I was saying, or the genre and species of butterflies, then whatever you're in, you have somebody speaking it to you, you might be able to just sort of nod off. Is that correct?
That's the hope, and that's the feedback that I'm getting is that it has been working for a lot of people. I do try to keep my cadence, like, I have, like, a 60 beats per minute kind of a speed that I speak at, so it is
Mhm.
pretty slow. It's not so slow that it's annoying, I hope, but it is pretty slow, and that's a bit like a mimicking of your resting heart rate. So the
Mm,
average resting heart rate is around 50, 60 beats per minute. And so I try to
mhm,
keep it slow like that and very calming. Just
mhm.
I use the voice that works to help soothe my daughter, to help me soothe my inner voice. I just try to talk to the microphone in as loving of a way as possible. I was just learning how to do something new pretty much every single day. It was like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do a website now. And then I'm going to figure out how to set up my podcast on this platform. And then somebody wanted it on a different platform. So I was like, well, let me see if I can figure out how to get it over there. And I'm gonna
Mhm.
figure out how to set up a Patreon. I'm gonna figure out like it was every day
Right.
was I'm gonna figure out how to do this. Oh, I need to use Canva to make a bunch of images. Like
Um,
it was
exactly.
it was absolutely this very big burgeoning learning experience, which was confidence building. It was I mean, I'm not going to say that starting a small business is how you get yourself out of depression and anxiety, but if you're struggling with feeling like you are adequate or worthy and you throw yourself into something where you just have to learn something new every day and it's going to be a little rough and it's not going to be everything that you like, it is confidence building in an odd way.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. So we are going to take a trip over to your website. This is the website that I have on my screen, which is www.sleeplists.com. And this is Helen's website. I'm just going to go ahead and share it. And so we have it on screen. And tell us about this just first section of your website.
Yeah, so this is just the where you land. You can click on listen now or click listen sleep, and in both situations, you'll end up right at episodes. So the other thing at the menu at the top, there's episodes, and so you can click there as well and get to there you go, all of the episodes, and they're in order from the most recent to, yeah, the oldest ones are at the bottom. So you can, load more if you want, but those are all the various sleep lists as they
Oh,
exist now. And then I also have at the top of the page, you'll see my blog. So there's a blog post to go with almost every one of my sleep lists. And lastly, there are sleep resources. Yeah.
okay, so tell us a little bit about your sleep oh my goodness. So all of these places will help you if you can't get benefits from your method, or maybe you are, but you have to have
It's
more.
it's more information. So there's a couple of links there that'll help you learn more about the importance and value of sleep. There's a couple of sleep coach experts on there too that I've worked with. Barbara, I didn't work with as a client, but rather she's the one I record monthly with on live stream, and uh, Joanne, who has been I've been a guest on her podcast, and she's an amazing sleep coach located in Ireland, actually. So anyway, and then I have a resource there about you controlling your phone. A lot of people, one of their complaints about their sleep is that their phone interrupts their sleep or they can't get off of their phones to get to sleep. And so that resource there is about taking control of your phone and helping you find ways to make your phone friendlier for your sleep, depending upon what your issues are.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead and try and share that right now here. And yeah, and so as I share it, if you could maybe highlight the
Yeah.
importance of having your phone away from you, or whatever you would recommend. So here is the sleeping with your phone nearby. And this is available off of Helen's website. You can
Yep.
just click on that. But this is the actual handout here that we're looking at
Mhm.
here. So then what is the purpose of this handout?
So so
Mm,
I think let me start by saying the textbook advice is put your phone away. Like, your phone shouldn't even be in your bedroom. Like, it should go downstairs somewhere. Like, just pretend it's the 80s and none of us have flip phone, like, none of us have, smartphones. It's, that's how you should be treating screens as they relate to sleep, is you shouldn't really mix sleep and screens. But it's not the 1980s anymore. It is the 2020s, and we have smartphones. Pretty much all of us have them, and they are ubiquitous in our life. We doom scroll on them on social media that can keep us awake. Some of us need to have our phones nearby because they are a connection to a loved one who absolutely, because of their circumstances and your position in their life, have the right to interrupt your sleep if there's an emergency in their lives, right? So this is a way to kind of navigate some of the settings in Apple and Android phones in order to help have your phone be a little bit more helpful in maintaining sleep schedules and not interrupting your sleep. And there's various tools that you can use, and this is some of them. So this is about how to do focus mode in your iPhone and how to set up do not disturb, as those are kind of separate things in that space. And then the idea that you can use your phone to help remind you to start bedtime, to start your wind down routine, to maybe remind you of what to do during your wind down routine. You can use your phone to play relaxing music. And so just really making sure that you're using the phone as a way to improve and support your life and the goals that you want, and not in a way that's controlling you or overwhelming your senses. One of the things that I do is, I do when my phone goes off and says, "Hey, it's time for bed," like, just a reminder, you wanted to fall asleep at this time, so maybe we should start winding down now. Um, I have a little routine, so I go through and I, like, check things, I check my calendar, and so I'm like, "Okay, I'm good, I don't need to check those things now." I'll just switch over to my music app, and I just play, like, I have a playlist that's just for calming down at night and winding down, and so it's, calm, soothing, instrumental stuff, nothing too agitated, and it kinda helps that whole transition from when I'm maybe downstairs and actively living to as I go upstairs to my room and brushing my teeth and washing my face and getting on my PJs and getting cozy for bed. I try to use that transition and the music from my phone to facilitate that transition into sleep.
And so a question I wanted to ask is, now I think you are primarily a developer of this method and putting it out for free. You did mention you have a Patreon, right? That
Yep.
people could actually pay for some of the stuff that you don't actually produce for free. And you don't do any coaching or anything like that, or maybe you do. I'm not sure. So let's just talk about like paid services, like if somebody wants to be a member of your
Yeah.
Patreon, or if they want to talk to you about sleep individually, is that available?
Yeah. I do have a Patreon, and I'm actually in the process of revamping a little bit what I'm going to offer starting next quarter to my Patreon listeners and supporters. I'm really excited about it. So, just a little preview of what that's going to be like is that I'm going to offer sleep lists and episodes of the podcast to them first. And so they'll have both additional exclusive content and early access through Patreon. And then the other things that I do for making money is my Speak Evangelist work. So instead of coaching, which sleep coaches are amazing, I have two of them, like I said, listed on my website. I have started to gather more and more of them in my network. I think they're all beautiful and amazing people that are really doing good work and have educated themselves to be of really good service to a lot of different people experiencing a lot of different sleep issues. I'm more of a person who lived a story of sleeplessness, has changed my perspective and my priorities towards sleep, and I want to help other people do the same thing through inspirational and motivational speaking and connecting with me through my blog, or not my blog, but my blog and my website. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can find Helen's podcast. Can you find it right there on the website?
Yeah, if you go to sleepless.com and you have episode and you click episodes, you can play them all the way through from the most recent all the way to the
Oh,
earliest. And if you happen to be a podcast listener and you have a preferred podcast platform, I'm on most of them. I'm on Apple Podcasts. It's available on YouTube now because that's where Google is doing theirs. I have it on Spotify, which is my home platform, but it's pretty available in almost all of the places. And if you can't for some reason find my podcast where you want to listen to it, please just let me know. Uh, Hit me up.
hmm.
I'm super available and almost always active on LinkedIn, so you can find me at in/Helen Sernett. So
So you go to episodes, and then you have the episodes, which are basically sleepless. And here is the Patreon page. And it sounds like you really want to make yourself very available.
I do, yeah. I want people to be able to get what they want out of this podcast and out of my services to the best that I can do. So, if I love when people share ideas. I just got a commenter on Spotify the other day who listed like 12 different really cool ideas for episodes that I hadn't thought of before. So I was like, oh, yay. Anyway, I,
Right.
I really like that ability to interact with folks and just get them enthusiastic about trying to get to sleep. I know from experience that when you can't sleep, it sucks and it makes sleep really awful. Like it was already something
Mhm.
I didn't want to do. I felt like it was an interruption to my life. And now it's this thing that I can't even do right. And it's hard.
Right.
And
Right.
so I want to be there for folks to help them rediscover a more joyful way of getting to sleep.
What is your yeah, what is your opinion on using drugs for sleep?
So there's opinions and then there's research, right? So sleep uh sleep support pills, so Ambien, those kinds of things, pharmaceuticals designed to help you go to sleep, can be addictive. Some of them are varieties of narcotics. It just depends on which ones work for you. And so that is something that you absolutely should not use unless you're medically supervised in terms of getting your prescription from and following the directions of a medical provider. My sense of it is if that works for you and it's keeping you functioning and you're feeling good, that's great. Me personally, I found that anything like that that I tried to use, because I had a great PCP who was willing to help me through some of that, um, it left me very groggy. Like, so I was from 8 a.m. to noon to almost sometimes 2 o'clock, I wasn't really awake. Like, I couldn't sleep more. I didn't need to sleep more, but I was not fully awake. Like, I could tell it was
It was
impacting
the
my
drug was
brain.
wearing.
Yeah, it was just impacting my brain too much. Um, I we live in Washington state. Marijuana is legal here. I tried using doses of marijuana gummies to fall asleep, and they were very effective until I started actually treating my depression with Prozac, and then what had worked wasn't, and they did not work well together. I did not like that interaction, and there's
Mm.
not a lot of studies, so I just had to go with what was happening in my body and decide to be like, all right, this antidepressant thing, I'm not taking much of it, but I can tell how much it's helping. I gotta figure something else out for sleep now.
Right.
Because I needed it was my choice to figure out what was working best and where I could help myself and where maybe I needed external help. So
Mhm.
I don't fault anyone for trying to go externally. I know that there are risks, and there's always more risks the more drugs we pile on top of one another. So if you can get good sleep and find your way to a really deep restorative sleep without the use of a pharmaceutical, that almost just kind of frees up another slot in case somewhere down the road you need that spot for some other drug.
Exactly. Excellent point for sure. Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
lot of clients who don't get sleep for various different reasons, but that really kind of sums it up as far as like if we want to take something for it or if you want to do something for it, right?
Yeah, yeah, and if that helps you, then I mean, it's so important to get sleep that it's kind of like if you're in a crisis, you're in a crisis. You do what you need to do to get to where you can stabilize.
Hmm.
But if you're at a point where you're ready to maybe pick up some new skills and that falling asleep is one that you think, yeah, I can probably learn some new stuff to help me do that. That's a great place to start in improving your own lifestyle and your own wellness. So,
Yeah. So both and not
yeah,
either or, both and as needed for the situation for sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I never wanna say that it's not okay. I'm not an absolutist on anything, and like I said, I take the Prozac, it's super helpful. I'm so grateful that that very simple, well-tested drug has improved my life significantly. Um,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
couldn't have done it without enough sleep though as well. Like I needed the sleep to help me relearn a whole bunch of skills that or new skills, provide, we call them tools, put new tools in my toolbox for coping with all the chaos that life throws at you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Is there any parting comments that you'd like to make about sleep, what you do, or anything else? This has been highly informative and very hopeful because I've got, like I say, a lot of clients coming in with sleep problems.
Yeah. Sleep is so, so necessary. It becomes such a huge part of our lives if we don't get enough of it. You think about it all the time. It like it sort of consumes you. It's why I became an evangelist for sleep. I think the parting words that I would like to give is you deserve sleep. Like no matter where you are on your physical health, mental health, personal development and growth journey, you deserve sleep, and getting that sleep will get you further towards where you want to go. There's just no aspect of your life that a good night's sleep can't at least help improve. And to get it over and over again is just a joy that allows you to really optimize your whole self.
I think you said restorative, right? So it's kind of
Yeah.
like if I left my cell phone unplugged all the time, I mean, it wouldn't be restorative. So the plugging in of the cell phone is going to be the sleep, and it's going to be restoring my cell phone to maximum operating capacity.
Yeah, you live longer too. Like I mean, sleep is literally life. So you get to if you get your 8 hours of sleep regularly, if you get the amount of sleep that your body needs, roughly 8 hours, and you get that regularly, you get to live longer, generally speaking, and with fewer health conditions. So
Hmm.
I I don't think there's a single reason in the world why you wouldn't want to focus on better, higher quality sleep.
And sleep and getting good sleep, getting enough of it, getting a good quality of sleep can help calm your chaos. I'm sure.
I'm
So here's
sure.
again Helen's website, and check it out. It is completely free. All these sleep lists that she has put up there, they're completely free. Try them out. Let me know if you have a good positive response to the sleep list and you try one or two or whatever. Let me know in the comment section. And also feel free to reach out to Helen herself. I'll have all of her information in the show notes so that you can do that. Again, for those of you that are not on the screen on YouTube, it's www.sleeplists, one word, sleeplists.com. All right, Helen, it's been great, Helen, to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for educating me and my audience on Calming the Chaos about your good stuff.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you all so much for listening. Check out sleepless.com, and thank you for the honor of helping you put this chapter of your podcast to sleep.
Yeah, I was going to put you in the green room and say something about that, but I think I'll just go ahead and say it while you're on screen is that, we are putting the way I've been doing my podcast to sleep. And so it's very appropriate that we have Helen on here to help me do that, because maybe what I'll do is incorporate some of the things that she has said, and maybe it'll help my mind a little bit. But I do have some ideas for some stuff in the future and going on to a new chapter. And you can do that too. Anybody who's out there listening, you can go on to a better quality of life if you just get more sleep. So,
Mhm.
yeah. All right, Helen, you take care. Thank you so much for being on the final episode of this type of Calming the Chaos. And we'll be in touch. I'm
Thank
sure.
you so
Let's
much.
let's meet in our dreams.
Let's meet in our dreams. Yes.
Exactly. Okay, take care.
Bye now.
Thanks for listening to Calming the Chaos podcast. If you found this podcast interesting or helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also go to www.calmingthechaospodcast.com to listen to all Calming the Chaos podcast episodes. I look forward to sharing my next podcast episode with you. In the meantime, take care. Howl at the moon or something like that.